Chapter 7. Night Training. Arthur groaned as he stirred awake from a dreamless sleep, his entire body barking in pain. His eyes squinted open, and he found himself in a bed surrounded by stone walls, more beds aligned against the wall to his right through the long room. Tall wooden cupboards sat against the walls, their handles knotted with locked chains. Drapes of grey sheets were tied back with thin ropes on hooks along the walls, their ringlets holding onto wood rods nailed to the ceiling.
The infirmary, then?
Arthur sighed, sitting himself up hesitantly on the bed, his body aching with every move.
To say the least, I am impressed with your skill set,
Marlon said, sitting on a chair beside him.
For a so-called street fighter.
Why did you make me fight a knight in training?
Arthur groaned, rubbing his head.
So I could decide if I should let you join or not. Watching others wouldn't have been any help in the decision.
Asshole. Observation would have allowed me to learn my targets better.
Arthur hinted, looking over at him.
Who was that man I was fighting anyway?
Kyan Bors. He's one of our newest trainees. You're lucky I didn't put you up against Dagonet.
Dagonet? An odd name for a man, don't you think?
Marlon frowned at Arthur.
Peter Dagonet.
The memory of the blue-eyed boy from earlier flicked into his head at the name.
Seems like everyone has unusual names these days,
Arthur muttered, groaning as he shifted against the pillow.
I'd say. What brought you here to train?
Ergot has been holding me back for as long as I can remember. It was time I proved him wrong.
Why come here with no clue of our process? Your father had at least some knowledge of what to do.
I'm nothing like my father, and I'm sick of everyone saying so.
I'm sure you've seen the murals around Londinium,
Marlon said, as flat as his stare.
Question is, do you believe in what the murals foretell?
You mean the murals of the Born King? Yes, I have seen them, and even if they were true, I couldn't house that responsibility.
Well, how would you know if you've never tried?
That stumped Arthur.
I've never been given the choice.
Marlon shook his head.
Choices aren't given, they're taken.
What would be the point anyway? My uncle wouldn't allow me to try and learn to take on that responsibility. I'm lucky I'm even in this building.
Marlon stood up, looking towards the door.
Then you damn well better make the use of your time while you've got it.
He dismissed, walking towards the doorway.
As short as it would be.
Sometimes Arthur liked to wonder how different things would have been if Ergot never came into power, if his father and mother were still alive. Sometimes it was more than occasionally.
What was he like?
Arthur asked, watching him leave. Marlon paused, pivoting halfway and looking down.
Brave, selfless, a true leader and king to his people.
People tell me I'm like him, that I'm selfless like him, but I'm nothing like him.
Marlon looked at him, distant memories flicking emotions across his face in a blur.
Then you insult your father by saying so.
How can I be the man my father was, when I'm not even given the chance to do anything for this kingdom?
Marlon's stare became solid, his back straightening.
You make your chance. You get up off your ass, go out there into the big scary world, and you prove yourself to your people. Benjamin gained the favor of his people by paving his path to lead Camelot along. Go pick up the shovel and start digging your trail.
Arthur looked at him, his eyes wide with shock and defense. He had never been talked to like that before, and maybe Marlon was right, but could he have been a little less snappy about it? It wasn't as if Arthur wasn't trying to do anything for this kingdom like his uncle. Hell, he'd fought a baron troop for an elderly lady. Couldn't Marlon see that he was trying?
No, Marlon can shove his words right up his—
Marlon!
Peter called from down the hallway. Marlon turned to the hallway, dragging his eyes away from Arthur.
What is it?
Some visitors are outside. Are you expecting anyone?
Marlon sighed through his nose.
Not particularly.
They said it's urgent.
Peter said, walking around the corner.
Safety inspection. The guy doesn't look too pleased.
Didn't know Camelot had safety inspections now.
Kyan scoffed, standing beside Peter. Marlon's eyes narrowed.
They don't,
he rumbled, moving past the lads down the hallway. Arthur stood from the bed and limped after Marlon, the two others following closely behind. Something was wrong, and it surely had something to do with the barons. It was the only explanation Arthur could think of. Arthur followed them down the hallway back to the small foyer at the front door, the long hall to the training pit to his left. Marlon peered through the small window on the door, his hand pressing against the handle.
Who's there?
Open on up, just doing an inspection.
Identify yourself.
Rohin Jaxai, go on now, open it up. The inspection will take 5 or so minutes. Better save us both the hassle.
Shit.
Arthur whispered, backing away from the door. Marlon's eyes flashed.
Rohin?
He said with astonishment, reaching to open the door.
You know him?
Old friend turned sour.
Open the door now.
Jaxai insisted, knocking on the door.
Peter.
Peter nodded, looking over at Arthur and Kyan.
Follow me, you two.
He walked past them, heading down the long hallway.
Where are you taking us now?
To play hide and seek from the Barons.
Peter answered, leading them down the hallway.
Can I get some context here?
No.
Arthur and Peter said, frowning slightly.
Tristan, Maria.
Knowing Tristan, he's probably harbouring all the food he lays his eyes on.
Arthur said, smirking to himself. Tristan turned around from the kitchen food table with a mouthful of food, chocolate covering his mouth. He said through muffled chewing.
What did I tell you, harbouring the food?
Get your ass out of the kitchen and follow me.
Peter commanded. Tristan swallowed, wiping his mouth on his sleeve and following after him.
Where are we going?
Jaxai and the Barons found us. Where's Maria?
Got caught up with the tools, like I said.
Where can I find her?
Probably in the stateroom.
Kyan, go and look for her.
Peter looked at him.
On it.
Kyan nodded and ran down the hallway towards a far door.
You two, this way.
Peter ordered, nodding towards a far hallway across the pit. Arthur followed, feeling the pressure on his leg strain his bruise. Tristan scampered behind, looking longingly at the kitchen. Marlon opened the door, looking Jaxai up and down, his lip curling.
You've got a lot of nerve showing up back in Camelot.
Good to see you too, Jonathan.
Jaxai said, stepping into the building.
Looks like you haven't changed much.
You got yourself a new decoration, it seems.
That's what happens when you gain more power. You change.
Jaxai shrugged, scouring around the interior, the Barons following behind him. Marlon blocked off the Baron's path, looking down at them with a frown.
Don't be rude to your guests. Let them pass.
Uninvited guests.
He sniped. Jaxai turned to him, his hands folded behind his back.
You two had no idea of our arrival, didn't you?
If I had known, I would have prepared the kettle,
he said with sarcasm.
It goes to show how much attention you give to important circumstances.
You mustn't have been important enough to be given my full attention.
Weren't you told?
Jaxai asked, walking up to him slowly.
The Barons are now here to protect Camelot, perhaps as a replacement for your knights. Maybe a new business wouldn't be a bad idea.
He smirked faintly, standing right in front of him at eye level. Marlon glowered at him in disgust.
You truly believe your guild will overtake Camelot without some sort of resistance?
Ask the king yourself.
Jaxai shrugged. As he followed Peter down the hallway, Arthur overheard the echoes of the conversation, stopping in place to listen carefully. Tristan bumped into his back, shoving him forward slightly. Arthur gave him a stern look.
Whoops.
Tristan murmured, smiling apologetically.
Luckily for you, I've had enough fighting for one day. Otherwise, I would beat you senseless right here.
No, you wouldn't.
Tristan waved his hand dismissively in the air, watching him with a bit of nervousness. Arthur stared at him flatly with an eyebrow raised.
You wouldn't, right?
Shove me again and we'll find out,
Arthur said, smirking lightly at him.
You're smiling, which means no.
Tristan grinned and stepped around him. Arthur Fake lunged, growling at him. Tristan yelped in fright, darting after Peter. Arthur shook his head amusedly at Tristan, returning to listen to the ongoing conversation between Jaxai and Marlon with interest.
I'm not asking for the king's opinion.
You should. He could put you into order.
Order? Last time I witnessed a baron in Camelot, the order went right out the window. What in your right mind thinks this time will be any different?
You best believe that something is going to happen sooner or later, my dear friend.
Jaxai muttered softly.
You won't just be a knight trainer.
If you're so inclined to take over the kingdom, why inform your enemies of your plans? I would have thought you'd know better, considering you were one of us once.
One of us?
Arthur's eyes widened, the conversation getting more interesting by the second, placing new thoughts and questions in Arthur's mind.
Who exactly is Marlon, and how does he know Jaxai so well?
Oh, that isn't what I'm planning. It's what's going to happen, whether you like it or not.
He chuckled, his grin audible in his voice.
What exactly are you here to inspect?
Where is he?
Where is who? There are many he's here.
Don't play dumb now, Arthur. I overheard him and the Knights of the Round Table discussing that he will attempt to become a Knight of Camelot.
Benjamin's son hasn't shown up today. Perhaps he chickened out.
Are you seriously going to lie to the king's men?
Jaxai asked with a frown. Arthur could feel the heat of Marlin's glare from across the hall.
You call yourself that out of the pain and suffering of others. You do not wear that title around me. I am well aware of your wavering loyalty.
I'm impressed, Marlin. Has your English improved?
Jaxai asked with a grin. A thud echoed down the hallway, an angered snarl following it.
Either learn to shut your trap right now and get the job done you were sent to do by your king, or keep talking, and I throw you and your black cloaks out to the stones. Your choice.
The sound of drawn blades whined, Jaxai's amused chuckle bouncing off the walls.
I wouldn't go any further, Jonathan.
Jaxai smirked. Tristan turned back around the corner, staring at Arthur with raised brows.
Are you coming?
He asked. Arthur looked forward at Tristan, nodding at him before limping after him hesitantly, straining his ears to hear the rest of the conversation.
I can go as far as I like while on my ground,
Marlin hissed. The rustling of cotton and leather filled the hall, the barons moving away from Marlin and sheathing their swords.
You people in Londinium better watch yourselves, I.
This is our kingdom. You cannot change that no matter what you think.
I beg to differ.
Jaxai scowled, the sound of boots leaving the hall trailing after him, reaching Arthur's ears. The door squeaked as it moved to shut slowly.
Don't expect such a warm welcome the next time you show up here again,
Marlin said sharply, closing the door and sliding the lock into place.